Good morning, one and all present over here. I, Debalina Kundu, home science teacher of Mahadevi Birla World Academy, will like to take the opportunity to welcome all of you to this interactive session. Experiential learning gives the learner an opportunity that whatever they have learned in theory, they get a practical experience. And job shadowing is also giving a student a practical experience of the career that they desire to pursue. We at Mahadevi Birla World Academy practice this very frequently to just make the students acquainted about the real world, that what are the opportunities related to the subject and how well they can be guided so that they are having a better perspective in future. Today's topic is food science and nutrition management. This is a vast field of education which demands lot more knowledge spheres and various career avenues. We are having with us nutrition expert Ms. Megha Jalan with us today, who will guide us and the students with the journey ahead. Can I have this Akanksha to take over with the proceedings? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I'm obliged to introduce you to a renowned dietitian who proudly is a part of our great beloved MBWA family. Megha Jala, alumnus of the 2007 batch of MBWA, has completed her master's in food science and nutrition management from the J.D. Birla Institute. She worked as an assistant professor in JTBI from 2013 to 14. She has also started her own venture fitness and she is currently working with Healthify Me as a subject matter expert. She has completed certified courses in diabetes educator, sports nutrition, and music nutrition. Along with, she has successfully conducted sessions for brands like ICICI Life Insurance, L'Oreal, Guidebite, IIFL, FIS Global, Shimaru, and Real Yoga. She will acquaint the students on how to deal with nutrition-related problems and provide us with the scope of various career-related opportunities on food, nutrition, and home science. We are honored to have you here, Megha ma'am, and we are looking forward to an interactive session with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akansha, and thank you so much, Ms. Kundu. Good morning, everybody. So with a detailed of who I am and what I do, I would start my session with acknowledging, as Akansha rightly mentioned, that what are the, deficiencies that happen if we do not have a good nutritional intake. So when I was talking to Suparna ma'am, the first thing that, we ended up discussing was that students do not have breakfast when they come to school. And I could remember my school days where I was also one of them who was not having breakfast while, when coming to school. And there were various reasons for the same. Early in the morning, you don't feel like eating something, or it's you travel long distances where you might have a little bit of motion sickness, because of which we don't end up eating our breakfast. So first, let's start with looking at what is the importance of breakfast over here. Firstly, breakfast is a winning start of the day. When we see that, students who have breakfast and we compare them to students who do not have breakfast, we actually notice there have been a lot of studies also which shows that the attention span, the memory span of students who have breakfast is far better than those who do not, because the body is going through a break or does not have any nutrition after your dinner, right? So there's a long gap of 10 to 12 hours. And when you do not get enough carbohydrates or enough nutrition during that phase, the brain might not be able to function properly. What happens in this case also is it leads to a lot of weight gain issues during the early ages of life. Why? Because obviously you've not eaten anything for 10 to 12 hours for breakfast, and then obviously the direct first meal that you have is your lunch, which you carry to school is again not a full-fledged meal, right? So with a gap of more than 12 hours, we might tend to overeat. We might tend to, so I hope, that is what we did in school. That is, we share tiffins, right? We share what everybody has got. So though our moms might give us what is good for us, but we tend to, share food with everybody else, and we tend to overeat there, which comes to the basic and the primary issue of overloading our body, because the body is not using up that many nutrients at that point of time. Again, now when we are full during lunch, our body does not use up the energy. We tend to feel tired, fatigued, and our mental performance is not as much as what it should be in the second half of the day as well, right? So breakfast plays a very, very important role when it comes to memory, attention span, at the same time, your nutrient intake. Just imagine that if our body needs, say, about 1500 kilocalories, we will not be able to meet that with just 2 meals a day. That is our lunch and our dinner. So we are missing out on a large chunk of nutrients over there itself. Moving to, this is one of the research which was done, which shows that there were at least 34% of students who were likely to miss breakfast. There were 55 who missed none, but amongst all the meals, 34% of the students tend to miss breakfast, which is quite a high number for our country. Now, what is an ideal breakfast? Now, when we have spoken about breakfast, we would want to know, right? What is an ideal breakfast looks like? An ideal breakfast should be a combination of a wholesome, balanced meal, which includes our carbohydrates, our proteins, our fats, and fiber and minerals. Now, when we think of it, it looks like a lot, right? There are too many things. How will I manage? And all the parents over here might think about that, how am I supposed to do this early in the morning for my kid, right? But our Indian food system is made in such a way that once you combine the basics of the things, you will be able to get all the food groups, which would be good for you and your child at the same time, right? So when we talk of carbs, we mostly talk about grains. We can talk about, say, in breakfast cereals, it's oats. There are your rava or suji, your poha, all come as your carbohydrates. Your protein comes from a simple glass of milk or a buttermilk. If we cannot have milk, even buttermilk suffices the purpose. Eggs suffices protein. A chicken sandwich is a good source of carb and protein over here, right? Fats, we are looking at probably invisible fats over here. So invisible fats is something which is inherently present in the food. So if you have milk, you get your dose of fat also in it. Or if you are using a sandwich, we might spread a little bit of butter onto it, which is a source of fat over there. So that's absolutely okay. And fiber and minerals, if you have one fruit along with it, your job is done. So it's not like a cumbersome, a lunch and a dinner whole kind of meal. Even one bowl meals can suffice the purpose. So let's look at some of the options over here. Oats and fruit smoothie. This is one of the easiest option, which I also do it till date. If I have an early morning session like today, okay, you end up having a oats fruit smoothie. It is very simple. You include 1 tablespoon of oats, 1 glass of milk, along with a fruit, blend it together, add some chia seeds into it or flax seeds into it for the fat, and you're good to go. 1 glass keeps you full for good enough 2 to 3 hours. Similarly, overnight soaked oats. If somebody is going, you have both working parents or the parents are working and you don't have time in the morning because you also have to leave along with the child, then the best option is overnight soaked oats, where you can soak the oats in milk and keep it in the refrigerator. Right at night, in the morning, just chop fruits on top of it and your job is done. Your carbohydrates, your protein, your fibers, minerals, everything comes in one bowl. That's about it. It can be a good breakfast for kids as well as parents over here. Cereal and milk. Breakfast cereals like muesli, cornflakes, you have different types of cereals these days. Works very well. But only thing that we have to look into is they should not be sugar coated. So the plain cornflakes works best. Even in muesli, the ones that have dried dates or cranberries works best. It should not be sugar coated. Again, one of the best options for an easy to do breakfast, right? And then we have the peanut butter toast. Now, peanut butter toast is again one of the fat, protein, and fiber rich option, along with the it's carbs. So we basically just spread a layer of peanut butter on a toast, add some fruits of our choice, and we are good to go there. Easy on the stomach as well as easy to do, does not take too much time. And obviously the last option are sandwiches. So sandwiches, yes, a lot of you might ask me that, how is a nutritionist recommending a sandwich? Ideally it's bread, which is unhealthy, right? In today's day and time, we get a lot of, varieties of bread. You get whole wheat breads, you get multi-grain breads, you get bread straight away from the bakery, right? So those are the breads that we can use over here. We can make it an egg sandwich, we can make it a chicken sandwich, we can make it a simple vegetable sandwich. We can just, maybe use it in a French toast or an omelette and a toast. Even that does the purpose. Okay. So breakfast is not something we have always, have the notion that, breakfast is something which needs to be cooked and it needs to be, prepared. It takes a lot of time. But with advancing of age, with, we come across families where everybody is working, right? It is both the parents who are working, the child is going to the school. There are easy options that's available. We just need to know how to utilize it and maybe, just get a little bit of taste of it to see how does it work. Okay. Okay. Now we move ahead to our second topic, which is mostly about scope of food science and nutrition management. Food science and nutrition management is a very vast field, very vast. Okay, when we think of it, we mostly come across just one thing, right? You can be a dietitian, you can be a nutritionist. That's about it. End of it. There's nothing beyond that, right? That's not true. That's absolutely not true. Taking to the first thing, that's a teacher or a professor. Once you are done with your master's, you can, take up the profession. So you can either do a B.Ed if you want to become a school teacher, or you can do your PhD, or there's this exam called NET, which is your national entrance exam, which you can do for if you want to become an assistant professor in a college. So teaching is one of the most, obviously the teachers who are there in food science and nutrition management, they have studied the same, right? So there's a wide scope in that. You can also, take up, like you have Miss Kundu, right, who's a food science and nutrition management graduate, but is teaching home science in school, right? So that is also one of the scopes that you see. It's very much doable, very much possible. You just need to be prepared. What do you want to do ahead? Do you want to go for a B.Ed or a PhD? Likewise, after your bachelor's, you might want to, figure out that whether I want to go for master's or I want to go for B.Ed at that point of time, to choose which of the streams do you want to take as a teacher or a professor. Okay. Next is a nutritionist. Now, when we speak of nutritionists, again, it is variety. You have sports nutritionists. So you can do an additional course in sports nutrition, or you have a master's also in sports nutrition. Okay. So when you do an additional course or you do your master's in sports nutrition, basically, with the coming age and time where India is looking at, bronze medals, silver medals, gold medals, there is always a requirement of a nutritionist or a dietitian to look into what the athletes or the players are doing, right? So there is where the sports nutritionist comes into account. So you learn all about, diet of these athletes. You tend to work with some of the national players or state level players, and you tend to gain a lot of experience while doing the course as well. So even if you do not want to go that far, also something like, it works for gym goers as well, because they want to build bodies, they want to, be more athletic or muscular in nature. So even that is one of the options over there. Second, you come to clinical. So by default, you can become a clinical nutritionist, because the subjects that you have in your bachelor's and master's basically takes care of that. So a clinical nutritionist is usually a nutritionist or a dietitian who works in hospitals or a hospital setup. So you basically go to the hospital, you take care of patients, you take care of their diet, you take care of, what should be given to a patient who is suffering from heart disease or kidney disease, or it can be, as simple as just, diabetes or weight loss purposes also. That's the job of a clinical nutritionist. Okay. Then you have the pediatric nutritionist. Now, when we divide the population, we divide it into pediatric, which are the babies, we divide it into geriatric, which is the elderly population, because the requirements are not the same for everybody, right? So for the pediatric population, like for example, in Calcutta, you have the Bhagirathi Neotia Hospital, right? So that would usually have a nutritionist who would be specialized in pediatric, because it's a maternity and a child health hospital, and a general nutritionist who will take care of, the mothers and the lactating mothers and any female related problems as per se. That is also one of the options. In fact, even the pediatric nutrition can take care of the same, because your college is taking care of the same. For child health and nutrition, you might have to do an extra course over there, a diploma or a certification, which will help you get into the field. Now comes the geriatric nutrition. Geriatric nutrition is mostly for the elderly people. So as we know that above the age of 60, there are a lot of complication, metabolic diseases, which comes into play. There is a lot of muscle loss, and, their requirement is not the same as that of a 30-year-old, right? So again, so over here, you usually can do it either through your own clinical setup, or maybe, you can tie up with certain doctors who look into these cases, and they would give you references over there. That is how the geriatric nutrition basically works about. When I'm mentioning geriatric nutrition, let me specify that is one of the most upcoming segregations of a nutritionist. You'll find a lot of pediatric, clinical, sports nutritionists, but geriatric right now, a lot of nutritionists like me, I don't specialize in the same, but if I have cases, I go about doing it, but then I might get stuck somewhere because of not being a specialized person, right? So that's one of the most upcoming fields in the world of nutrition in today's day and age. Then you have general. A general nutritionist is somebody who basically deals with weight loss, but can handle certain medical conditions like hypertension, diabetes, PCOS, PCOD, thyroid, the basic ones. So that is, again, you learn about all of those, and the repercussions, the diet about that in your college, in your BSc and your MSc. So that is how you manage it. And then with India being almost, the third diabetes capital and coming to the second, diabetes educator is again one of the additional courses that people tend to take up. Now, why do they take up, and what's the basic purpose of the same? So the basic purpose of a diabetes educator is to help the person or the client understand, because see, the person is suffering from diabetes, which is a metabolic disorder, right? It is not like any other condition. Over here, the monitoring is more. So diabetes educator ideally is a nutritionist who explains to the client, how do you maintain your day-to-day activities and food? What are the measures that you need to take over there? So that's an additional course which you can do. It's a 6-month course, and in Calcutta you have Dr. Mohan's clinic and Apollo Hospital which provides this course. It's a distance learning course as well. So that is something that you can do along with your masters. So these are some of the scopes of a nutritionist or a dietitian if you plan to become one. Post that, the fields that you can go to hospitals, you can go to MNC, corporates, or pharmaceutical industry, any pharmaceutical industry. For example, if somebody wants to make a protein bar, they would require a nutritionist. If somebody wants to make a whey protein, they would require a nutritionist. Anybody who wants to make a supplement will require a nutritionist. So that is how you use it in the nutritionists work in the pharmaceutical industry. In the MNC and the corporate, basically what happens is, with the job profile becoming more and more hectic, what is happening is that at times there are many offices who provide meals round the clock, because they are working in various shifts. Now, when a person is working in various shifts or different shifts, maintaining of diet becomes a little difficult for them, and they might become a little obese, or they might become a little sedentary. So that is why nowadays you have all multinational companies or corporates either hiring a full-time dietitian, or you can work in multiple multinational companies and corporates, wherein you give them sessions, you give them seminars. At the same time, you look into their kitchen. So you go there once in a week, you check their kitchen setup, you check their diet menu, and so you can work at about 3 to 4 MNCs at one point of time. It's a contractual job basically. So that is also one of the very upcoming fields in nutrition. Then with COVID hitting us for 2 years, there have been lots and lots of online platforms available. Healthify Me, where I work as a subject matter expert, is one such platform and app, right? So you have various, you have Fitter, you have Healthify Me, you have Cult, you have different online platforms which provide you with, the opportunity to work as a dietitian or a nutritionist or a coach there. Okay. Then you have different clinics. Like one such clinic that I can remember of in Calcutta is Diet Mantra. That's one of the clinics based in Bhawanipur, which basically has a consultancy service where you can apply for. So anybody who is not too keen on going to the hospital, at the same time doesn't want to, doesn't is a little not so confident in starting off on their own, they can always start off from clinics to gain experience. So that is also one of the ways you can start off the career. Then you have health clubs and gyms. Any health club or gym would have a dietitian or a nutritionist, because workout is not the only solution. You always need to maintain your diet at the same time to help you achieve your goals. So any health club and gyms do the same. Apart from that, there are NGOs which do that. So what NGOs basically do is, again, it's usually a contractual job over there, wherein you go to different segments of the state, you look into the population who cannot afford a service of a nutritionist, and they help you. So they can be, they can be mother, they can be children, they can be, elderly population. So they look into those services. They hold camps in different parts of the state to do that. And, they basically help you with the right food. And at times the NGO itself would ideally even, provide with a little bit of grocery, because they are unable to, get them in by their own. So that is how you do it in a NGO. So this is the field, this is the various places where you can work as a nutrition and a dietitian. Next, you come to, if you take up the specialization of, food science and nutrition management as the subject, as the topic suggests, you can be a food safety officer or a food inspection officer. So a food safety officer usually works in any food related industry or factory. So for example, let me give you an example. For example, it is what is one thing? Lay's, probably. Okay. So they would check whether the quality of potatoes are fine or not. They would check whether the oil is fine or not. They would check they aren't using any expired materials over there. So that is what a food safety officer basically does. Okay. Then you have food inspection officer. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, you do it mostly in corporates or in MNCs, wherein you check whether everything is done according to, you always have a SOP, right? You always have a way of procedure. How do you follow things, right? Whether that process is being followed or not, whether the hygiene is being maintained or not. So in hotels and restaurants, it's often seen that when there are, busy days, they don't tend to, they tend to use materials which is expired. They tend to use materials which are not up to the mark or quality. So because of which a lot of diseases can also happen. A lot of, a lot of ungrateful things might happen over there, right? So that is where you basically have an inspection officer who does a timely check. So once in 3 months, once in 6 months, they would go to that MNC or the corporate or the hotel or the restaurant and check whether what kind of, and it is a impromptu check. They do not tell you the date and time. They would just go there and check for everything. Okay, it's a surprise. So basically, surprise test happens in all corporates, and if you are caught over there, if the factory or the corporate or the hotel or the restaurant is caught, their license is usually cancelled. So your job is very important to, let them know whether they can function or they cannot function. Okay, and then there's food product development, right? So food product development basically means is, for example, we see that young boys and girls right now do not get enough protein from their diet, right? So why don't develop a food which is going to be good for them, right? So you look into the health aspect, you look into the protein aspect, you look into the taste aspect, you look into the likes and dislikes of, you know, um, young population, and then you develop something. Then it goes for a market trial to see that, you know, whether it is working, not working. You see the price point of it. So there's a lot of work that you do in food product development also. So food product development basically means developing something which is not there in the industry right now, so which is not present, and how do you want to get them in the industry? What are the ways and means in which you can do that? Again, food product development is something in which the basics are taught to you in college. You have, you know, curriculum which teaches you how do you go about it, how do you go about standardization, how do you find the price. So all that is taught to you in the college. You just have to pursue that in the field. And if you you know, if you are really interested, your internship can also take place in some of these organizations, which would help you with the you know, basic knowledge of whether you want to work there, you don't want to work there, or how do you want to proceed with it in general. Next, a lot of us want to do research, right? So a lot of the people want to basically get involved in research, as in, for example, giving you a very small example over here is, we know that vitamin D is a sunshine vitamin, right? But with 2 years in COVID, where people were not going out, and, you know, with using so much of sun protection these days, we don't absorb a lot of vitamin D. Hence, what as a nutritionist I have noticed is that in today's day and age, where earlier people used to have a vitamin D deficiency at the age of, say, 30, 31, now they are having that deficiency at the age of 23, 24. The reason is same. You know, they have not been going out, work from home is going on, and you sit in air conditions, you don't go out in the sunlight, right? So now, if that's the case, then we might want to have a supplement, or we might want to have a food which gives you vitamin D, right? So the research can go on that. How can you incorporate vitamin D in food? What are the ways of incorporating it? And as we know, for example, I'm an vegetarian, right? So if you tell me that, you know, you need to have cod liver oil, or you need to have chicken to maintain your chicken does not give vitamin D, but I'm just giving you an example that, you know, you have to have that as a supplement to improve it. I will not want to do that, right? So what are the vegetarian sources of vitamin D that can be incorporated? Okay, that is what research does. It does a very clinical study. It sees that, you know, whether if I take this product, how will it respond in the market? Again, the tasting thing, what is the absorption rate, what is the rate in which the people's health condition improves over there, is what basically the research people do. Research is a little difficult to get into. You would maybe need to you know, do your PhD at that point of time, or you might want to be you know, and research is mostly what people take up abroad. They don't take up in India. They go abroad, they go to UK, or they go to US, and they pursue their research over there mostly. Indian population, I've still not seen too many people going into it, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort also at the same time. You can become an entrepreneur any day. You don't want to work under anybody. You can't take you know, commands. You want to work at your own will. You can always become an entrepreneur. Like, I started my own venture. That was an entrepreneurial venture that I started off, wherein, you know, you build up your database, you build up the clients that you want to deal with, you take appointments, you might want to set up a small clinic for yourself, and you take that. You can, again, there can be two kinds of entrepreneurs over here. One entrepreneur is, like I mentioned, a clinic on your own, or being a dietitian on your own. And the second one is, probably you want to you want to build apps, health-based apps, or you want to build health-based websites, or you want to have a health-based supplement. So you can be entrepreneur also in various, you know, ways and means. There's no one thing as an entrepreneur. There is multiple things as an entrepreneur that you can do. Next, culinary. Okay, one of the best examples of culinary I can give you is the Master Chef winner, Kirti Bhautika. She's a food science and nutrition management graduate and has taken up baking, gone to Master Chef, proved herself there. A lot of students do take up culinary. They can be home chefs, they can work as chefs, they can work in cafes, they can own their own cafes. So culinary is also a very big scope. Understand one thing. The food science and nutrition management graduation and post graduation requires a lot of cooking. You have a lot of practicals based on cooking. You have a segment wherein it is called community nutrition, basically, wherein you cook for a party or you cook for a population of 20-30 people. So that is also what's being taught to you, that how do you manage that. So the basics are done over there, and that is how you pursue it in future. So you do your trials and testing right there in college, and once out of college you can always pursue that as one of the career options as well over there. Okay, so culinary is another one of the options that you can take up. Now, Kirti Bhautika is one example of a baker, but you can always have, savory items also. So you would have, again, I don't know, Calcutta based, and you guys are young, so maybe you would know. So we have a lot of, home bakers or, cafe owners, which are from, the food science and nutrition management background. Because one thing which is important over there is they understand the science behind the food. They understand what will match with what. They understand that in today's day and time, when somebody wants something healthy and tasty at the same time, they know how to go about that combination because they've studied the science over there. That is how you basically come across this thing. Okay. So these are some of the avenues that you can go into. Apart from that, obviously, as you age, so it is, you guys are in 11, 12 right now. So mostly, you have 5 to 6 years of time, and the world changes in 2 to 3 years. So it's about 5 to 6 years where, more avenues would open up for us, more, more job opportunities would be there for us. With COVID hitting us, it has been a boon for our industry over here, because everybody is conscious of their health now. Everybody wants to maintain their health, look good. Saying that COVID actually hit people very badly, but if you ask our industry flourished during those 2 years. Why? Because everybody was at home. They wanted to look after their health. They didn't want to fall sick. They were skeptical. They wanted to do everything to maintain their health, and that was a boon over there. Right? So now people have started understanding the importance of, good diet and everything. So opportunities have come up a lot over here. So I'll stop sharing the screen and we will take up questions.
Thank you, ma'am, for letting the students know for all the career avenues. It was very well depicted. And I hope they get to know that the wide scope what the nutrition has to offer. It's not limited or narrowed down to be a nutritionist or being a dietitian. This is a common concept, and they are knowledgeable by this time. So I like if the students wants to ask any questions to ma'am, you can start asking that.
Yes, Suchetna.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Suchetna.
A very good morning, everyone. And I would like to start off by saying thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful session. I was curious to know that does nutrition counseling completely cure eating disorders in adolescents like us?
Depends upon what stage of disorder you are in. Okay, so and what is, so whether it has caused any nutritional deficiencies in you also by the time, and when is it detected. For example, it's just at the beginning stage, right? It is very much doable by counseling. It is very much doable by giving you certain foods which is going to help you improve your situation. But at the same time, if it is detected very late, by that time, what happens is a lot of nutritional deficiencies have set in. So that is something which is a little more, intricate process to go into. But yes, in adolescence, nutritional counseling definitely helps. And that is one age where we have seen that majority of the nutritional related disorders also happen. So it is very much doable, but again, you where do you catch hold of the issue is the point over there. If it is a little late, then instead of counseling, you might want to go to a little bit of more therapy and a little more supplementation over there to help you resolve your entire situation out there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Yes, Akansha.
Ma'am, my question is that becoming vegan is a trend going on these days. So
Right.
does that lead to any deficiencies because the major food groups are getting excluded from the diet?
Wonderful question. I really love this question because veganism is a trend right now. So this is what I always say. Any diet trend that you pick up, whether it is intermittent fasting, whether it is veganism, you need to understand of why do you want to do that. Okay, so people have started turning vegan because of multiple reasons. Okay, one of the most common reasons are that, you know, B-town celebrities are turning vegan. Because of that, I also want to turn vegan. Okay, so that is not an adequate enough reason to turn a vegan. Now, a lot of people turn vegan because there has been a lot of lactose intolerance these days. Okay, so where does this lactose intolerance basically comes from? So with the growing population, the basic need for milk or milk products has increased in the market, right? So what is happening is that the cows, the buffaloes are basically injected to produce more milk. So when they're injected with hormones, what's happening is that is causing PCOD, PCOS in women. That is causing even the male hormonal system being disturbed. At the same time, we are not being able to digest that properly, or we are having problem for that. So if lactose intolerance is one of the issues because of which one wants to turn vegan, that's a good enough option. Another issue is a lot of the people want to turn vegan because they love animals. They just can't see that, you know, the animals are being tortured or brutally killed because of our consumption, right? So uh, again, if somebody is one of them, it is a good option to turn vegan. But then obviously when you're turning vegan, it has to be everything. Even, you know, your makeup products sometimes have animal products. You have to be careful about that also. The bags and the accessories that we use have to be vegan leather as well. So that is also something that you need to take care of. But you need to know the reason. Now coming to the nutritional deficiencies, if you are a non-vegetarian turning a vegan, it will be a little bit of problem because your protein intake would be hampered, right? You're a non-vegetarian, you're getting good biological value protein from your non-veg, and you're turning a vegan. So obviously that's going to be hampered. But if you're a vegetarian turning a vegan, then you have your alternatives. So instead of milk, you can take soy milk, almond milk. Instead of paneer, you can take your tofu. Instead of butter, you can take your peanut butter, almond butter. Substitutes are very easily available in the market right now. So that can be easily substituted. But again, supplementation might be needed over there. So that you have to be mentally prepared with, that the diet is not going to suffice everything. I will have to take some amount of supplementation there. So again, depending upon why do you want to become a vegan, one can turn vegan. A non-vegetarian will face more consequences as compared to a vegetarian. But yes, protein is a factor which everybody might want to look into when turning into a vegan, because as we know, protein, so the bulk of protein sources is something that we tend to avoid when we turn vegan, apart from honey or other things. So that's how you become a vegan, or you want to become a vegan.
Thank you for answering, ma'am, and we loved the session.
Thank you, Akansha. Yes, Jia.
As we know, COVID has changed our lifestyles drastically, and doctors these days are prescribing us with vitamin supplements. So I wanted to ask if those are healthy for a prolonged period for adolescents.
Okay, so depending on what vitamin supplement. So I believe that we are talking about vitamin D and B12, right? Okay, so as I discussed, right, vitamin D and B12 is something which we see that nowadays at very early in life, people are being deficit of the same. So also we need to understand what's the requirement of a supplement. Okay, so for example, you are very low on vitamin D. I can source it through food to you, or I can source it through, any other factor to you, but this is going to take time. So giving you a very small example. So GI, you might be somewhere around 16 to 18, right? So the vitamin D deficiency in you has happened over 16 years of time age, right? So once we do it through food, it's not going to happen overnight, right? It will take a little bit of time to happen that. But I'm getting a little bit into science over here. So when your vitamin D is deficit in the body, what happens is it will ultimately result in calcium also not being absorbed from the food. So that deficiency doesn't occur, we tend to take supplements. In one go, the level goes up, and then we can maintain it through the diet, right? So there are certain nutrients like vitamin D, B12, where supplementation is necessary. Whereas there are certain other vitamins like vitamin E, vitamin C, which ideally you can do through diet. So depending upon which vitamin are we looking at, we might want to take a call. So over here, are we talking about D and B12, or are we talking about some other vitamin?
Mostly D and B12.
Right. So it is okay. I mean, the doctor would give you only when your levels are very low. And in your case, ideally, the doctor will give you a supplementation in terms of a capsule or a shot. In elderly, they want to give an injectable. So that's absolutely okay. And also we need to understand one thing. Once you're deficit of vitamin D and B12, it might happen on a very regular basis. So every 2 to 3 years or 4 years, you are younger. So I'm giving you a span of 4 years. For people of my age who are in their 30s, it's every 2 years I have to go for a supplementation. That's like, because of multiple factors. I don't stand out in the sun. I don't want to tan myself. I'll use a sunscreen, right? Which is reducing the absorption of vitamin D. So every 2 years, I'll have to go for a supplementation in general. So that's absolutely healthy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Yes, Vidhi.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good
So
morning.
my question is that we are humanities students without chemistry. So
Hmm.
will it be difficult for us to pursue nutrition as higher education?
No, I am myself a humanities student without chemistry. Okay, so we studied, so in BSc of your nutrition, basically, you would have chemistry, biochemistry as one of your subjects, where again, the basics would be taken care of, the food composition. So it would be more about chemistry of the food rather than the organic chemistry part. That would be taught to you very well in college. I would not deny the fact that a science student might have an advantage because they've studied, chemistry over the period of 2 years and higher chemistry than what you have, but it is not a disadvantage. I am myself a living example of the same. I'm very well a humanities student pursuing nutrition as a career, and it's relatively easy also. I mean, it's not very difficult. Biochemistry is something you might want to pay focus upon, but normal chemistry and everything is doable. Absolutely.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Most welcome.
If any of the parent or the teachers attending the session is having any questions, you can please ask her the questions, please.
I would like to ask a question about Healthify Me. Like, I have seen this advertisement several times. So what is it about?
So, ma'am, Healthify Me basically is an app which started off its career in 2012, basically. So the free version of the app gives you the provision to track your meals, to track your calories, to track your workout, to track everything that you do in the entire day. And the paid version of the app gives you an option to choose between a diet coach, a fitness coach, a yoga coach, either, or you can have any of the two coaches, or you can have all three at the same time. So basically, the concept comes from, it was seen that in our industry where we need to visit the dietitian on a regular basis, right? It was not being practical for people to do that because of their busy lifestyle. So when you have a dietitian calling you up and telling you, okay, Mrs. Roy, this is what you need to look into. So you have a nutrition service right at your home, or a workout service right at your home. So that is what the concept tried bringing in, and it moved. So we have come up with version 2 also, which is basically we use a smart scale, we use we use a CGM, which is a glucose monitoring machine, and we use diagnostics, that's the lab test, to analyze the root cause and then giving a solution to the client, and wherein it is going to be a lot of engagement with the client as well to help you get your real-time solutions when you want them.
So on a daily basis, like the communication goes on. How does it happen? How do you operate basically?
Right. So the messaging part, something very similar to a WhatsApp message. We have an in-app messaging section over here. So you can stay in touch with your coach through messaging. That's one of the things. And you get regular calls, or you can book calls with your coaches also over there. So that is how the basic system works. And it is primarily, quite a bit of it is a work from home thing as well. So it's like for me, for example, I can do majority of my work right from home with the comfort of my home. I can do that. So it is very good for, women who have young children, or for somebody who, who stays in a, who has moved to maybe a smaller town or a city, wherein, you don't have that many great opportunities in your neighborhood. But then you can always be on an online platform as a provider, service provider, and that helps you over there. So the communication basically happens over calls and messages, both as per the comfort of the client. So if the client is comfortable talking on the calls mostly, so they can either book calls with their nutritionists, or they can ask the nutritionist to call them, and or they have the in-app messaging also to work through. And also you need to log your meals on a regular basis so that the dietitian can give you a regular feedback. So for example, you've logged in yesterday's meal. So the dietitian will give you a feedback that, Mrs. Roy, I see that, you exceeded your carbs budget because you had one extra roti. Make sure we are not doing that on a regular basis. Okay, so your everyday meal thing is monitored over there.
Monitoring, yes.
That is what is of primary importance in the diet industry. If somebody is not looking into that or monitoring that, we see that, people tend to go haywire. So that is what the app basically does.
Thank you. Is there any parent there who would like to ask a question?
Ma'am, I had a question to Megha, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, how important is the follow-up? Ma'am, we all know diet counseling, the nutritionist or the dietitian are doing their part. But don't you think follow-up is equally important? And do we get the same response for the patient that we work with?
Okay, so let me put it in very simple terms, right? You give a homework to a student, right? Until and unless you'll ask for the homework next day, nobody's going to submit it on their own. We know that, right? That's what follow-up is basically about. Okay, you need to follow up, otherwise the result is not going to come there, right? So that is what happens with a client and a dietitian as well. That the client over there is a student, you are the teacher over there, and you need to ask the client that, okay, what have you done? What have you not done? The only thing is, the clients are adults over there, so they cannot, it's their will whether they want to come back to you or not. In this case, these are students, they have no other option but to submit their homework at the end of the day, even if there's a delay. Okay, so that's the entire thing. So, but ultimately the basic motive is to help and improve, whether it's in the case of student or whether it's in the case of client, right? You want to help and improve their metabolic condition. If the client is not following up with you, right? According to me, that's client's loss. That's not my loss. You are giving upon the opportunity to take care of your health. Today's food can be tomorrow's medicine if you don't take care of it, right? And just calculate the hospital bill and just calculate your grocery bill. You will come to know how important your health is. Any small procedure in today's day and time, even if you look at it, your blood, your whole body checkup in today's day and time costs you nothing less than 3,000 rupees, right? If you just take care of your health, that might not be required on a regular basis. Your medications cost you a lot, right? So that is what basically the follow-up does. It keeps you on track. It helps you be where you are. It helps you improve your condition, and it helps you take care of yourself better. So follow-up is extremely important. And again, if I cite a research, the cases where, clients have seen results, or the clients have seen, changes only when they have been motivated enough to follow up with the dietitian. If that doesn't happen, the results are not there, they go back to their own this thing. So one important, not important, but one of my famous or my regular quotes that I use usually is, diet is not like a switch that, switch on and switch off as per your convenience. It is a lifestyle change. Diet sounds fancy, but it's not fancy. It is just taking care of your regular food habits, what you do on a regular basis, and you know how to make use of the same. That's about it. That's the total thing of it. So if you can manage that, if you understand the science behind it, that's good. So follow up with a dietitian for the client is very important to improve. And that doesn't mean that, see, ideally, I would want that a dietitian should be given a status of like, you have a general physician or a general, your doctor, right? That if I have anything, I'll just call this doctor up. Ideally, it should be something like that. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But at least you should have someone to go back to and ask about small issues. Nowadays, even something like, cases like bloating, constipation happens where the doctor directly tends to give you a medication. So a dietitian will help you out with foods that can help you relieve it in the longer run. So that's the basic importance that we see over a period of time.
I think there's a question from
Girisha.
Yeah.
I want to ask, we are humanities students without chemistry as one of our subjects. So will it be difficult to pursue nutrition after our school?
No, absolutely not, Girisha. It is very much doable because you have biochemistry and chemistry as subjects in your college as well, which teach you the basics, and it is more related to food chemistry. So that definitely will help you. So I'm myself a humanities student, so that's not a problem.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Most welcome. So
some of the doctors also say that refrigerated food also, is not so, the nutrition part is not there. It doesn't.
Right. So what happens is basically the science of the food works like this, that the more time the food spends, like, after being cooked, there are certain, and when you refrigerate it, it is, in minus temperature. So what happens at that point of time is there are certain nutrients which become inactive. So that is the reason why refrigerated or stale food is something which should not be consumed on a very regular basis. Once in a while, it is possible. And also given that, we have so many families who are working, and especially people abroad, who do not have time to cook on a regular basis. For them, it is absolutely okay to do it once in a while. But refrigerated food, ideally freshly cooked food, is the best. The reason for a little bit of PCOS and PCOD increase is also because having a lot of stale or pre-cooked meals also. So it plays around with the hormonal imbalance of the body. And obviously, when we refrigerate the food, we also microwave it later. We don't tend to, heat it on the stove. So that is again another problem which is caused by the same. So I have a question direct from Nosheen, who asks me, what are the options of bachelors? So bachelors in Calcutta, you have Calcutta University, which gives you the bachelors. Also in Jadavpur University, affiliated to Jadavpur University, you have J.D. Birla Institute, which gives you the bachelors. If you are willing to do bachelors outside Calcutta, there are many avenues open to you. Mumbai has maximum colleges for bachelors available. So you can do that. In Calcutta, you have J.D. Birla and Calcutta University providing you with the same. I passed out my bachelor's from J.D. Birla.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Do we have any further questions from the parents or the students?
I see Sohini ma'am here, though I don't
Yes.
know if she remembers me, but she was very well, she was a teacher when I was...
Good morning, Megha. Yes, I taught you in J.D. Birla. I was a faculty member when you were there in college.
Yes,
I remember you very much. You were my first batch
yes,
in
ma'am.
J.D. Birla.
This was an excellent session. So, but I think now we have to come to an end. So, Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, we have another
I
question.
think there's
Yeah.
one.
Ma'am, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Principal Ma'am, teachers, and our guest speaker, Megha Jalan, Miss Megha Jalan, for such an enriching session on food nutrition and management, and also the career options will help us tremendously. So thank you for gracing us with your presence, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll look forward to more such sessions. And I think after Diwali, you are coming to Kolkata, so we can have on campus sessions.
On campus.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank
Shall
you,
we-
everybody.